Can I ask you, you were outspoken from the beginning, from, March 2020. Can I ask you how you knew? Because it took me a little while. I mean, I don't have kids, so the school issue was not something that I caught on to right away. I think probably if I had kids who were in school, I would have been concerned about that, probably maybe earlier on. But at first I didn't see the big picture, and I thought, okay, so what? We'll lock down for a little while. Everybody stop whining. And then I started to talk to different people about their perspectives and read other people's perspectives who were critical and look into it more. I interviewed some people who were critical and then changed my mind. I realized that something real bad was going on and had to be like, I was wrong. This is terrible. But there were some people like you who saw it right away. Why do you think that was?
Gosh, this is something my husband and I talk about all the time. I don't know. I mean, I was very intent on reading the data from the very beginning, and the data was very clear from the very beginning. And I just kept going down these rabbit holes. I would read the actual data coming out of, China, you can't count because you don't know what is coming out of China, whether that's true or not. But the data that came out of Italy, if you remember, Italy was the first, right after China, that was the market where the country where we saw all the terrible things happening. The median age of death was 82. We knew this in February and March. And you don't have to be incredibly good at math to know that if the median age of death is 82, that children are not at risk. They're just not. And so I just kept going deeper and deeper into the data. And then I found people like John Ioannidis. I don't know who, are some of the folks you've talked to, but I end up reading these articles in Stat News, not a publication that I would normally read. But there were dissenters out there from the very beginning, people like Martin Kulldorff and Jay Bhattacharya. And they were questioning the infection fatality rate. They were questioning lockdowns as effective. They were definitely questioning and challenging the necessity of school closures. There were countries that were doing it differently. Sweden never closed schools for elementary school children. Denmark opened schools only 3 weeks after they shut them because they said the harms are just too great to children. So information was out there. You had to look really, really hard. I think for me, there were sort of two things happening at once. I didn't believe the narrative that we were being fed, and so I sought other information. But I also felt like it was wrong. Even if everything they said was true, it's wrong to tell people they can't leave their homes and they can't see their loved ones and they can't be with sick and dying loved ones. It's just wrong. It's
inhumane. They can't hold a funeral for a family member that's died. Abandon your mother in an old folks home alone.
I mean, if you want to be with I have a close friend who died in August of 2020, not COVID, a young person, 52 years old. We couldn't have a funeral outside at the beach for 20 people. Horrible. It's just wrong. In August of 2020, playgrounds in San Francisco were closed for close to 10 months. Playgrounds. Now, if you live in a city, you don't have a yard. Where were kids supposed to play? It's just... So I could see that it was ineffective. Well, one, I could see that the facts and the data that they were spewing were untrue. Two, these tactics seemed largely ineffective. So we're going to lock down until what? It's like putting your foot on a garden hose. The water will stop and then the water is going to come back out. So what are we doing? I went back and I read the CDC's pre-pandemic playbook from 2006, which said you never close schools for more than a few weeks, even with an infection fatality rate way higher than what we were dealing with COVID. And then there was just the issue that it was wrong. It was a denial of just our basic humanity, our civil rights. Even if all of it was very effective, I would challenge it on the grounds that it's just wrong and cruel.
It's inhumane, and then of course it crossed the boundary of our rights, our constitutional rights, our charter rights.
And then for it to actually be all based on a foundation that is lies, it just is so egregious. And so as I started to criticize and push back on the narrative, what became increasingly alarming was then the silencing of any view that challenged, no matter how diplomatic. I'm very diplomatic. Believe me, you learn to be a diplomatic challenger as a woman in corporate America. Like, you don't get your ideas heard by telling everybody they're an idiot, like, and that you're right. Like, it just doesn't work. You know, you challenge with data and facts, and you say it in a nice way, and you make the men think it was their idea. That's the way it works. That's how it works. And so I had this very, you know, it's interesting, as I was writing my book, I went back and I was like looking at my tweet history, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so nice. I don't even understand what people were mad about, you know? I was always so nice and reasoned. And, you know, my husband is very aggressive. He was not as nice. He got himself kicked off because of it. But I don't know. I just saw it. And I don't know. I ask myself this all the time. Like, I don't know what differentiates a person that sees it. I think there's two things required. You have to see the lie, not just COVID, but other lies too. And then you have to actually be willing to buck the narrative and stand up and take the insults and the vilifying and risk friends and job and all that stuff. Those are two different things. And I don't know why, but I just was reading incessantly, and everything that would come out, none of it made sense from the beginning. None of it made sense.